The paper grocery bags slip from my fingers before I fully process what I'm seeing. The jar of marinara shatters against my new tile floor, splashing red across the pristine white surface like blood at a crime scene. For 3 heartbeats, I stand frozen in my own doorway, keys still dangling from my hand. My mother and sister are inside my cottage that I showed them photos of only 3 days ago. My cottage, whose address I deliberately hadn't shared. What are you doing here? My voice sounds distant, hollow. Liana whirls around, measuring tape extended between her hands. She's been measuring the guest bedroom, my home office, her expression momentarily startled before settling into something irritatingly entitled. Posey, you're home early. Mom straightens from where she's been rearranging my sofa and armchair, creating a configuration I hate. We thought you'd be at work until 5. That doesn't answer my question. I step over the growing puddle of sauce, my shoes sticking slightly to the floor. How did you get in here? Mom waves dismissively. Oh, I had a key made yesterday when I stopped by to congratulate you. The memory surfaces instantly, Mom asking to use the bathroom during her brief visit, her purse unexpectedly left behind when she went down the hall. At the time, I'd thought nothing of it. You took my keys and copied them? Without asking? The tremor in my voice surprises me. Don't be so dramatic, honey. Mom busies herself, fluffing a throw pillow. We're just seeing how to make this work for everyone. Make what work? The question forms but doesn't leave my mouth because suddenly I know. The realization crashes into me with the force of a physical blow. Fragments of childhood flash before me, Liana's 11th birthday with the hired clown and backyard carnival, while my own celebration that same year had been a store-bought cake in our living room. Mom's dismissive, it's just not in the budget for you, contrasted with the lavish spending for my sister. The pattern had never stopped. When I announced I was house hunting last month, Mom hadn't congratulated me. She'd called Liana immediately to discuss opportunities. This is my home, I say, each word carved from ice. Not yours, not ours, mine. I cross to Liana and pluck the spare key from her hand, where she's been fidgeting with it. Her fingers close reflexively, then release. You can't be serious about living here alone, Liana says, her forehead creasing with practiced concern. This place has 3 bedrooms. The kids need space. Your housing situation is not my problem. The steadiness in my voice surprises me. After everything we've done for you? Mom's eyes widen, her hand pressed dramatically to her chest. Your sister's children need bedrooms. Family helps family, Posey. You know that. The familiar weight of obligation presses down, a lifetime of expectations that I'll sacrifice for Liana because that's what I've always done. But something has shifted inside me. The trembling in my hands stops as clarity washes through me. You have exactly 2 minutes to leave before I call the police. I'd point toward the door, arms steady. You wouldn't dare. Mom's voice sharpens. 1 minute, 50 seconds. They leave, Mom slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. I slide the deadbolt into place with a satisfying click. The phone rings 20 minutes later as I'm still cleaning marinara from the grout lines. Dad's name flashes on the screen. What the hell do you think you're doing? His voice booms the moment I answer. Your mother is in tears. You're tearing this family apart with your selfishness. I say nothing, scrubbing harder at a stubborn red stain. Liana needs help, Posey. That's what family does. You've always understood that before. Always understood, always accommodated, always sacrificed. Not anymore, I whisper, but he's still shouting, not hearing me. After I hang up, I stare at the family photo on my mantle. Mom, Dad, Liana with her perfect husband and 3 children, and me, slightly off-center, smiling the strained smile I've worn my entire life. For the first time, I see us clearly. See the pattern of sacrifice I've been conditioned to accept. I place the frame face down on the shelf. This house is mine. This life is mine. And I'm done giving pieces of it away. A day later, the Facebook notification pings while I'm sipping my morning coffee. A rare moment of peace 3 days after the marinara incident. Something about Liana tagging me. I tap the icon, expecting another passive-aggressive family photo where I'm awkwardly positioned at the edge. What I find stops my breath. A post from 3 weeks ago before I'd even closed on my cottage shows Liana's 3 children squeezed into their shared bedroom. The caption reads, "Kids are finally getting a bigger place soon. Blessed. Family first." My thumb hovers over the screen as I scroll to the comments. "Which bedroom does Ellie get?" asks one of Liana's friends. Liana's response, "The blue one with the bay window. Jack and Tyler will share the room across the hall. Mom thinks the third bedroom should stay a guest room in case Aunt Carol visits. My coffee mug slips from my fingers, splashing hot liquid across my bare feet. I barely notice the burn. 3 weeks ago. They were planning this 3 weeks ago, before I'd even signed my mortgage papers. I bolt to the bathroom, my stomach heaving as the magnitude hits me. This wasn't an impulsive idea after seeing my house. This was calculated, planned. They had been strategizing how to take over my home before I'd even purchased it. My phone buzzes with a text notification as I rinse my mouth. It's from Dad, but he's accidentally included me in a group message meant for Mom and Liana. Don't worry about Posey's tantrum. Mom has written, she'll give in once you're settled. She always does. The shaking starts in my hands and spreads until my whole body trembles against the cool bathroom tile. She always does. 3 words that summarize my entire life. The family dinner invitation arrives via text the next evening. We need to talk about a solution, Dad writes. Your mother's making pot roast, 7 p.m. I should refuse. Every instinct screams to stay away, but some withered, hopeful part of me wonders if maybe, just maybe, they've reconsidered. When I arrive, the table is already set with Mom's good china. Dad, Mom, and Liana sit clustered on one side, an empty chair waiting for me on the other. The division couldn't be more obvious if they'd drawn a line down the middle. Posey, Mom says, her smile tight. We're so glad you could join us. Before I can respond, Dad slides a manila folder across the table. We've found the perfect solution. Inside are printouts of 5-bedroom houses, all within 2 miles of Liana's children's school. Each listing has been annotated with notes like perfect playroom and good backyard for the kids. These are lovely, I say carefully, for Liana and Mark. Dad clears his throat. For all of you, together. We've already talked to your bank. Mom adds, stirring her iced tea. Transferring your mortgage to a different property is quite simple. The difference in price would be manageable if everyone contributes. My mouth goes dry. You contacted my bank? Just preliminary discussions, Mom says, waving away my concern like an annoying fly. Your furniture won't all fit, of course, Liana chimes in, but we could sell the extra pieces. We'll need space for the kids' bunk beds. The front door opens, and Mark strolls in, late as usual. He nods at me before turning to Dad. I was thinking about the garage spaces. The left side would work better for my truck, if Posey doesn't mind parking on the street. The casual way they're dividing my property, a home they've never contributed a penny toward, leaves me speechless. My hands curl into fists beneath the table. Posey, Dad says, his voice dropping into the serious tone he used when I was a child and had disappointed him. Refusing to help would show you don't really care about being part of this family. Mom reaches across the table, not quite touching my hand. Think about your relationship with your nieces and nephew. Children remember who was there for them. Everyone knows family comes first in this town. Liana adds, her eyes narrowing. What would people think if they knew you had all that space while your sister's children are crammed into one room? The weight of their expectations presses against my chest. For years, my entire identity in this family has been Liana's supportive sister, never just Posey, with my own dreams and needs. I spoke with Robert at your office. Dad mentions casually, as if he hasn't just crossed yet another boundary. He understands your family crisis might require some flexibility in your schedule, to help Liana with the move. After all we've done, Mom adds, her voice trembling with practiced emotion, providing a home for you all those years. The memory surfaces writing rent checks every month throughout college while living in their basement, watching them pay Liana's full tuition and apartment costs without question. The silence stretches as they wait for my capitulation. The familiar script. Posey protests. Family pressures. Posey surrenders. She always does. But something has shifted inside me since finding them in my house. The pattern is suddenly visible, like one of those magic eye pictures that snaps into focus after years of just seeing random dots. I stand, carefully placing my napkin beside my untouched plate. Watch me not help, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. I walk out, ignoring their calls to return, their demands to sit back down and be reasonable. In my car, the phone begins buzzing with texts and calls. I switch it to silent. As I drive home that night, my phone lighting up with angry messages, I wonder if standing my ground is worth potentially losing my family. Should I maintain this boundary at all costs, or find some compromise that wouldn't completely sacrifice my independence? The house was mine, but was complete separation the only way to protect it? The thought of compromise flickers and dies as I remember the Facebook post. They never intended to ask. They planned to take. Some boundaries can't be partial. Sometimes the only protection is a wall. 3 days after the dinner ambush, notifications ping my phone like tiny detonations. Each one jolts me from whatever momentary peace I've managed to find. I make the mistake of looking at Liana's latest Facebook post, her children squeezed onto a pull-out sofa, faces arranged in exaggerated pouts. The caption reads, "When family abandonment means your kids don't have proper bedrooms. Family first. Unless you're selfish, apparently." My stomach twists as I scroll through the sympathetic comments. People I've known since childhood offer prayers and support. 3 different church ladies promise to speak to me about Christian family values. My finger hovers over the reply button, but what could I possibly say that wouldn't pour gasoline on this fire? My phone buzzes with a text from Mrs. Hatcher, my 3rd-grade teacher. "Your mother showed me pictures of your beautiful home. So much space for just one person. I raised 4 children in half that size." I set the phone face down on my kitchen counter and grip the edge until my knuckles whiten. The betrayal burns like acid in my throat, not just from Liana, who I've come to expect this from, but from Mom. She's plastered photos of my house online with captions about forgetting where you came from and what happens when success goes to your head. The doorbell rings, sending my heart rate skyrocketing. Through the peephole, I spot Pastor Williams on my front step, Bible tucked under his arm. This isn't a coincidence. This is a coordinated attack. "I'm sorry, I'm not available for visitors today." I call through the door. "Posey Adams, I've known you since you were in Sunday school. Your family is concerned, and as your spiritual advisor." I didn't request spiritual advice. I interrupt, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. "Please respect my privacy." His sigh carries through the door. "I'll be praying for your heart to soften." After he leaves, I sit at my kitchen table and make a list of everything that's happened in the week since I threw my family out of my house. The scale of their retaliation is becoming clearer and more frightening. Yesterday, I discovered the first concrete evidence of how far they're willing to go. My mortgage statement hadn't arrived, so I called the bank. "We've been sending it to your updated address," the representative explained. "Your parents contacted us about forwarding your financial documents to their home for safekeeping." The violation leaves me breathless. They nearly succeeded, would have, if I hadn't been vigilant about my payments. What else have they diverted? What other pieces of my life are they quietly commandeering? Sleep has become almost impossible. I lie awake, cataloging potential vulnerabilities, jumping at every creak and rustle outside my windows. The thought of checking my mail each day fills me with dread. What new boundary will they have crossed? What fresh guilt trip will be waiting? This morning, I received an email from my homeowners association. My parents had contacted them with concerns about commercial activity at my address, a complete fabrication, but one that required me to respond with formal documentation, proving I work from home occasionally but don't run a business. The cost of this estrangement keeps mounting. But the alternative, a lifetime of exploitation, of being seen as nothing more than Liana's support system, seems unbearable now that I've glimpsed freedom. I start small, changing passwords, setting up mail, forwarding directly to my workplace, installing security cameras at every entrance. I document each unwanted contact, each social media post, each attempt to access my personal information. The methodical process steadies my shaking hands. When the security company finishes installing my new system, I feel a strange blend of sadness and relief. My home, the place that was supposed to represent my independence, now resembles a fortress. The next morning, a small miracle appears on my desk at work. A loaf of homemade bread wrapped in brown paper with a note tucked beneath the twine. "Sorry I blabbed about your new place. Not everyone thinks you're wrong. Some of us wish we'd been brave enough to set boundaries years ago. Marcy." I hadn't realized how isolated I'd been feeling until that small gesture of support brings tears to my eyes. The moment of peace is short-lived. That evening, I pull into my driveway to find Liana's SUV parked in front. Through my front window, I can see shadows moving inside my house. The familiar surge of violation is accompanied by something new, cold, crystalline anger. This time, I don't hesitate. I call the police from my car, watching as neighbors peek from behind curtains at the unfolding drama. By the time the officer arrives, my family has noticed me sitting in my driveway. They spill onto the front porch, Mom's face contorted with self-righteous indignation, Dad's reddened with anger, Liana clutching her purse to her chest like a shield. "She's throwing her own family onto the street," Liana cries dramatically as the officer approaches. "We were just visiting." "With what key?" I ask calmly, showing the officer my security camera footage on my phone. "I didn't give you permission to enter my home." Mom steps forward, eyes darting toward the gathering neighbors. "How could you call the police on your own blood? What will people think?" Something shifts inside me. The question that has controlled my entire life, what will people think, suddenly seems absurdly irrelevant. "I don't care what they think," I say, my voice steady. "I care what I think, and I think this ends today." The officer escorts them from my property with a warning about trespassing. As they drive away, I realize something profound. I've spent my entire life afraid of disappointing my family, measuring my worth by their approval. But I've never considered how consistently they've disappointed me, how little they've valued my independence, my choices, my right to a life that isn't defined by what I can give them. The next day, Dave, a friend from college who now practices family law, helps me draft a formal cease and desist letter. "They're counting on your guilt," he tells me as we review the document. "They've weaponized it your whole life." When Liana shows up at my workplace the following week, her eyes swollen from theatrical crying, my coworkers form an unexpected protective barrier. Marcy intercepts her at the front desk. Two others happen to join me for lunch when Liana tries to ambush me in the parking lot. The contrast is stark. These people who owe me nothing respect my boundaries without question, while my family, who should protect me, tramples every line I draw. With each day, I find my voice growing stronger. "No," becomes easier to say. "This doesn't work for me," rolls off my tongue without apology. The words, "I've made my decision," no longer feel like a betrayal. At home, I change all the locks, upgrade my security system with door cameras that send alerts to my phone. I gather financial records, text messages, social media posts, a paper trail documenting years of exploitation. The folder grows thick with evidence I hope never to need but feel safer having. The notification appears on my phone while I'm in a meeting 2 days later. The doorbell camera shows my mother on my front step, trying a key in my lock while glancing nervously over her shoulder. The key doesn't work. I've changed the locks twice since the last confrontation. Her expression darkens as she tries again, then reaches into her purse for what appears to be another key. My heart pounds as I watch the footage. This isn't over. This is just beginning. I spend my Sunday afternoon assembling evidence like puzzle pieces on my dining room table. Every trespass, every manipulation, every lie documented with military precision. The security camera footage plays on my laptop, showing Mom trying 3 different keys in my front door yesterday while I was at work. I add the timestamp to my spreadsheet and feel a curl of satisfaction, rather than the usual guilt. "This looks comprehensive," Dave says, adjusting his reading glasses as he reviews my documentation. My lawyer friend has squeezed me into his Sunday, bringing the scent of coffee and legal pads into my living room. "The cease and desist letter should be ready tomorrow. Will you be okay delivering it yourself?" I need to do this myself. I add the mortgage company's call recording to a labeled folder. The representative's voice still rings in my ears. "We spoke with someone claiming to be your mother about transferring your mortgage to another property. We informed her this wasn't possible without your direct authorization. My therapist Judith's advice guides my hand as I organize everything. Document, don't engage. Facts, not emotions. Boundaries, not arguments." Monday morning, I place the certified letter in my mother's hands. She doesn't open it, just stares at me with wounded eyes as if I've betrayed her by protecting myself. "You'll regret this," she whispers, but takes the envelope. 3 days pass in blessed silence. No calls, no texts, no unexpected visits. I sleep through the night for the first time in weeks. Thursday brings the inevitable escalation. I'm reviewing code at my desk when Marcy from accounting appears at my cubicle, eyes wide. "Your parents are in the lobby," she whispers. "They told reception your sister was in an accident, and they need you immediately." Cold dread washes through me until I spot the text from Liana complaining about her kids' school lunches time-stamped 2 minutes ago. I find my parents arguing with our receptionist, Mom dabbing at dry eyes with a tissue while Dad demands I be brought out immediately. Family emergency. He barks at the young man behind the desk. Her sister's been hurt. I just texted with Liana, I say, stepping into view. My voice remains steady despite the tremor in my hands. She's fine. Mom drops the tissue. Posey! Thank goodness. We've been so worried. Miss Adams? My boss appears beside me, her expression carefully neutral. Is everything all right? Dad attempts his charming smile. Family matter. We'll just borrow Posey for a bit. My family appears to be lying about a medical emergency to disrupt my workday, I tell my boss, loud enough for the entire reception area to hear. I apologize for the disturbance. Security escorts them out while I return to my desk, ignoring the stares. That evening, I discover Liana's latest attack, a GoFundMe page titled, Housing Crisis, Help My Children Have a Home, with my photo prominently featured. One email to the platform's legal department, citing unauthorized use of my image, and the campaign disappears by morning. My father's voicemail that night slips from rage into accidental truth. You ungrateful little, do you know what you've done? We had it all planned out. We were going to move in whether you liked it or not, and now you've embarrassed your mother in front of... I save the recording with a grim smile. When my company announces an opening at their new branch in Colorado Springs, I find myself weighing a promising opportunity against running away from conflict. Would moving mean letting them win? Or was it my chance for a fresh start beyond their reach? My support system rallies around me like a protective wall. Dave sends a formal warning to my family, outlining the legal consequences of continued harassment. Judith helps me craft responses that stay firmly factual, without engaging their emotional bait. My boss offers flexible hours during what she calls this transitional period, her eyes knowing but never pitying. Your house needs better security, says Tara, my realtor friend, walking the perimeter of my property. Motion-sensing lights here and here, and reinforce this back door. I'd expected to feel alone in this fight. Instead, I've discovered allies I never realized I had, people who value my boundaries and recognize my family's toxicity. The tide begins to turn. Aunt Susan calls to ask hesitantly about the other side of the story. Cousin Mike messages that he doesn't think it's right what they're asking. Even Liana's perfect social media campaign backfires when friends comment, "Why can't you and Mark support your own family?" And, "Isn't Posey single? Why should she house your kids?" Their facade is cracking, revealing the selfishness beneath. The job offer letter arrives in my email Friday afternoon. Colorado Springs branch manager glows on my screen like a beacon. Something loosens in my chest, possibility perhaps. Or freedom. For the first time in weeks, I smile without reservation. A week later, at home, the cherry pie sits on my kitchen counter like a crimson trap. Mom stands beside it, fingers tapping against the granite, in a rhythm I've known since childhood. The beat of her impatience, when I'm not immediately agreeing to her plans. It's your favorite, she says, though cherry has always been Liana's preference, not mine. I've corrected her on this fact at least 20 times over the years. Her eyes keep darting to the security camera mounted near my entryway. The blinking red light seems to make her nervous, which gives me a small measure of satisfaction. I think we got off on the wrong foot with all this, Mom says, her voice unnaturally pleasant. She's rehearsed this. I can tell by the way she keeps shifting her weight from one foot to the other, the way she did before parent-teacher conferences when I was young. Your father and I have been thinking, and we've come up with the perfect compromise. I wasn't aware we were negotiating, I say, keeping my distance. The kitchen island between us feels like necessary protection. Mom pulls a folder from her oversized purse. We found some lovely properties just 15 minutes from here. 5 bedrooms, plenty of space. She slides several glossy listings toward me. You sell this cottage, we all move into one of these. There's even a mother-in-law suite for Liana's family. I flip through the listings, noting the prices that are triple what my cottage cost. And how exactly would this work financially? Well, you'd get the master bedroom, of course. She smiles as if offering me a tremendous gift. We've already toured 3 of them. The realtor was very accommodating when we explained the situation. You toured houses in my name? The calm in my voice surprises even me. Mom waves dismissively. We needed to move quickly. The Hendersons' daughter is also looking in that neighborhood. She leans forward, voice dropping. Listen, Posey. If you're going to be difficult about this, we can always contest the ownership. You couldn't possibly have afforded this place without family help. Family help? The words taste bitter. You mean the full rent I paid while living at home during college? Or perhaps you're referring to the student loans I'm still paying off while Liana's education was fully funded? Mom's face hardens. Don't be ungrateful. I walk to my office without responding, and return with an envelope. I place it on the counter between us, next to her untouched pie. What's this? She doesn't reach for it. It's a job offer from our company's new branch in Arizona. I push it toward her. I accepted it last week. Her hand freezes mid-tap. Arizona? I'm selling the cottage. I watch her face brighten before adding, and moving to Tucson next month. The color drains from her face. But what about Liana? Her housing situation is not my concern. I open a drawer and pull out a thick manila folder. I've been gathering some interesting documentation. I spread the contents across my counter, financial records showing my paid rent throughout college, alongside Liana's fully funded education. Birthday expenditure comparisons, showing the thousands spent on her celebrations versus the bare minimum for mine. Loan papers for the cars they bought her while I saved for my used Honda. What is this supposed to be? Mom's voice has lost its rehearsed quality. Evidence. I pull out my phone and tap the screen. And here's my security footage showing 17 unauthorized entry attempts on my property. Mom stares at the screen, watching herself and Liana testing keys in my lock, peering through windows, even once bringing a locksmith who thankfully refused the job. I'm not running away. I say, gathering the papers. I'm running towards something better, a life where I'm valued, not just useful. Your father will be furious, she whispers, but there's a new uncertainty in her voice. I'm counting on it. 3 days later, I arrive at my parents' house for what they've billed as a family meeting to resolve the housing situation. The driveway is full, my aunt's car, my cousin's SUV, even my grandmother's ancient Buick. The gang's all here to witness my surrender. I take a deep breath before entering, folder tucked securely under my arm. The conversation in the living room halts when I step inside. Liana sits on the couch between my parents, a united front. The extended family is arranged in a loose semicircle, an audience for the performance. There she is, Dad says, standing with a forced smile. We were just about to explain our solution to everyone. Actually, I say, my voice carrying across the suddenly silent room, I have an announcement first. I place my folder on the coffee table and open it to reveal the listing for my cottage, complete with professional photographs and a bright red for sale banner across the top. My house goes on the market Monday, I say, and I've accepted a position with my company's Arizona branch. I'm moving next month. The silence stretches for 3 heartbeats before Liana's shriek shatters it. But what about us? Where are we supposed to go? I meet her gaze steadily. The same place you've been living. The same place you'd still be if you hadn't tried to take what's mine. Dad stands, face reddening. This is how you abandon your family? After everything we've done for you? Everything you've done? I pull out copies of my documentation, passing them to my grandmother and aunt. Here's a record of what you've actually done. Different rules for different daughters, different support, different expectations. My aunt's eyes widen as she scans the papers. You made her pay rent during college while paying for Liana's apartment? It built character, Dad snaps, but his confidence wavers as more family members begin examining the evidence. You should see the security footage, I add, loud enough for everyone to hear. Them trying to break into my house while I'm at work, calling my mortgage company pretending to be me, creating a GoFundMe claiming I was in financial distress. Grandmother's hand covers her mouth. Is this true? My parents' silence is answer enough. As I drive home that evening, my phone buzzes with texts, not from my parents or Liana, but from my aunt, my cousins, my grandmother, words of support. Questions about whether they'd been misled about other family matters over the years. The beginning of cracks in the family mythology. 2 days later, my realtor calls with news that feels like both victory and farewell. You've got an offer already, she says. $20,000 over asking, cash, with a 30-day close. I'll take it, I tell her without hesitation. One more thing, she adds. Do you want to keep the spare keys, or should I discard them? I think of all the keys that have been copied without my permission, all the boundaries crossed. Discard them, I say. I won't need them where I'm going. As I hang up, I hear whispers that my parents have already approached my cousin Thomas about his guest house. The cycle continues, but without me in it. I wonder briefly if any relationship with my family can be salvaged after I move, whether distance might actually make healing possible. But that's a question for another day. Today, I have boxes to pack and a new life to build, one that's entirely my own. A year later, the morning sun streams through windows that have no curtains because I haven't decided what style I want yet. My furniture sits exactly where I placed it, not where someone else thought it should go. The wall beside my desk blooms with photographs. Me atop a mountain in Colorado, shaking hands with the CEO after my promotion, standing proudly in front of this house on closing day. Not a single picture shows my family. My phone rests on the counter, its screen occasionally lighting up with notifications. A year ago, I would have lunged for it, heart racing at the possibility of another accusation or demand. Now, I glance at it with casual indifference. Unknown numbers route straight to voicemail, and several familiar ones too. Outside, through the kitchen window, my garden catches the morning light. Rows of basil, thyme, and rosemary herbs Mom always claimed would overwhelm her delicate palate thrive in neat beds. Brilliant orange marigolds border the walkway, their pungent scent a childhood favorite. I was never allowed to plant near the house. Too common. Mom had said when I was 10, "We're putting in roses instead." I bite into a fresh strawberry from my own patch and smile at the sweetness. The doorbell rings precisely at noon. Friends file in carrying gift bags and platters, their faces bright with genuine happiness to see me. No one has an agenda beyond celebration. "Happy birthday, Posey," calls Elaine, my colleague turned friend, setting down a bakery box. "Apple pie, as requested." "Not cake?" asks Thomas, another coworker who's driven 2 hours to be here. "I've always preferred pie," I answer, the simple truth filling me with unexpected satisfaction. Especially apple. For decades, I'd dutifully blown out candles on chocolate cake because Liana loved it. Mom always said making 2 desserts was wasteful when we could share. Elaine arranges candles on the pie while I pour wine into glasses, the stemware I chose because I liked it, not because it matched someone else's taste. "What should we toast to?" asks Sophia, the neighbor who brought me homemade bread when I moved in. "To building homes, not just houses," I say, raising my glass. "And to the family we choose." The words settle warm in my chest as we clink glasses. On the wall near my door hangs a simple wooden key hook with just one key mine. No spare hidden for emergencies. No copy held by anyone else. Later, after everyone leaves, I find myself thinking about Jared, the new engineer at work. Yesterday, I spotted him shrinking into himself as our project manager dismissed his ideas. The familiar posture hit me like a punch to the gut, the same way I used to make myself smaller around my family. "Actually," I'd said, interrupting the manager, "Jared's approach could save us significant testing time. Let's hear more." The surprise and gratitude in his eyes reminded me of my own reflection the day I finally stood up to my family. My phone buzzes with a text from Michael, the landscape architect I've been seeing for a month. He respects my boundaries with a reverence that once would have felt foreign, but now feels right. "Still on for hiking Saturday?" the message reads. I smile as I type back, "Absolutely." Before turning in, I scroll through my phone gallery and pause at an old family photo, everyone grouped tightly together, me slightly out of frame as usual. After a moment's hesitation, I delete it and replace it with a picture of my front door, painted the bold red I'd always wanted. My cousin Brenda texts occasionally now. Last week, my uncle called to check in. These tentative connections with extended family happen on my terms, with clear boundaries that they've learned to respect. As I settle into bed in my quiet house, I wonder whether complete separation from my parents and Liana was necessary for healing, or if someday I could rebuild limited contact on my terms. What would you do? Maintain the distance that brought peace, or attempt to create a new, more balanced relationship from the ashes of the old? For tonight, I'm content with the life I've built, one where every choice, from the garden herbs to the friends around my table, reflects who I truly am.